The fear arrived before you did. That is the specific quality of what you generate in rooms that carry the kind of weight those rooms carry. It arrives ahead of you, moving through the space before you enter it, produced by something the room can sense at the level where rooms sense things before any visible cause has presented itself. The people in the room feel it, and they cannot always name what they are feeling because naming it would require admitting what is producing it. Admitting what is producing it would require admitting something about you that they have organized their entire world around not admitting. You are important. The word sounds simple. It is not simple in the way the people in those rooms experience it. They are surrounded by important people constantly, people with titles and positions and resources and the accumulated visible markers of significance. That kind of importance does not produce fear in them. It produces recognition of a familiar category. It produces the specific comfort of hierarchy confirming itself, of the important encountering the important and each affirming the other's importance through the encounter. The familiar kind of importance is a relief to them, not a threat. What you carry is not the familiar kind. What you carry is the kind that their world was built specifically to prevent from becoming visible. The kind that does not derive from position or accumulation or the institutional conferral of significance. The kind that is simply what you are, prior to anything the world has given you or taken from you, prior to any credential or connection or visible achievement, simply there in the specific quality of how you exist. This kind of importance does not recognize itself through the established categories. It does not need the room to confirm it because it does not derive from the room's confirmation. An importance that does not need the room's confirmation is the one kind of importance that rooms built entirely on the confirmation of importance cannot process without being destabilized. You destabilize those rooms. The royals are scared because every time someone like you moves through their world, the foundational premise of their world is put in jeopardy by the simple, unavoidable, completely unintentional fact of your presence. Write 666 in the comments right now if you have always felt the disturbance you produce in certain rooms before you understood what was producing it. If you have entered spaces and watched something shift in the people there, not in response to anything you said or did, but in response to something you simply are, and felt the shift without having language for it. That shift is the fear. The fear is the proof. And both are the confirmation of what is being said here. What makes you important at the level that produces fear in people who are surrounded by importance constantly is something that needs to be understood precisely before it can be held fully. Because the word important carries so much cultural weight in its conventional form that it is easy to receive it in the conventional form and miss the specific form that is actually being described. The conventional form of importance is relative. It exists in comparison to other things. It is produced by having more of something than other people have, more position, more resource, more recognition, more influence over the outcomes that the relevant world cares about. This relative importance is real within the domains it operates in, and it produces real effects in the people who recognize it. But it is conditional. It depends on the continued maintenance of the comparison that produces it. Strip away the position, remove the resource, interrupt the recognition, and the relative importance dissolves. What is left is a person without their importance rather than an important person who has temporarily lost their markers. The importance you carry is not relative. It does not exist in comparison to anything. It is not produced by having more of something than others have. It is the quality of what you are in the most absolute sense of what a person is, prior to comparison, prior to accumulation, prior to any of the mechanisms that produce relative importance. It is simply there. As a feature of your existence rather than as a feature of your position within any system that ranks existence. This absolute importance is what the royals cannot categorize. They have sophisticated frameworks for relative importance. They can assess where a person falls in any relevant hierarchy with a speed and accuracy that comes from generations of practice. But absolute importance does not fall anywhere in the hierarchy. It is not a position within the existing structure. It is a quality of being that the structure did not create and cannot acknowledge without acknowledging that the structure's own foundations are not what they claim to be. The claim of their foundations is that what matters about a person comes from what has been conferred upon them by the right sources. By bloodline, by position, by the endorsement of other people who have been endorsed by the right sources. The absolute importance you carry was not conferred by any of those. It was not endorsed. It was not inherited. It was not the product of any process that the established structures recognize as a legitimate source of significance. It simply is. And something that simply is, without the endorsement of the structures that claim to be the source of what matters, is the thing the structures are most organized to prevent people from recognizing as real. They cannot prevent you from being what you are. They can only prevent you from knowing what you are. And the knowing, arriving now, in the specific form it is arriving in, changes the entire operating context of what comes next in your life. The specific quality of the royal's fear in relation to your importance is different from the fear that ordinary power produces in them. Ordinary power, a competitor, a rival, someone accumulating resources in their domain or influence in their sphere, produces a legible, manageable form of threat response. The threat is identifiable. The source is locatable. The response can be calibrated to the specific form the threat is taking. This kind of fear is uncomfortable, but it is workable. They have infrastructure for managing it. Generations of practice in dealing with it. What you produce is not a legible threat. You are not competing with them. You are not accumulating in their domain. You are not trying to displace them from their positions or acquire what they have or undermine their influence through any mechanism they can identify and respond to. You are simply present. Simply being what you are. And what you are, simply being present, produces in them an experience they have no infrastructure for managing. The experience is the sudden, interior, involuntary recognition that the basis of their importance is not the basis they have always believed it to be. That importance in its truest form is not what their world produces. That the significance they have inherited and maintained and organized everything around is a form of something, but not the deepest form. That the deepest form is in front of them right now, in a person who did not acquire it through any mechanism their world controls, who carries it as the natural expression of what they simply are. This recognition is not always conscious. It does not always arrive in a form they can articulate or acknowledge or look at directly. But it arrives. In the specific quality of the attention they give you that is different from the attention they give the familiar kinds of important people. In the specific energy of the response that does not match what the surface of the situation calls for. In the particular quality of wanting to establish something, hierarchy, precedence, the primacy of their form of significance, in a moment when nothing visible has called for the establishing. The establishing impulse is the fear expressing itself. They feel, in the presence of what you carry, the need to reassert what their world has always told them is the legitimate form of importance. To make clear that the form they carry is the real one. To resolve the discomfort of being in the presence of something that the structure cannot account for by reaffirming the structure. The reaffirmation does not resolve the discomfort. The fear remains underneath. Because you do not require anything from them, and the reaffirmation only works on people who need what the reassertion is offering. You need nothing they have. You carry what you carry independently of anything they can confer or withhold. An importance that cannot be conferred or withheld is the one thing the entire mechanism of their world is incapable of addressing. You have spent years not knowing that this is what was happening. This is the piece that matters most for how you understand the encounters in your past that had a quality you could feel but could not explain. The interactions that left you with a residue of something that felt like having done something wrong without knowing what you had done. The rooms where the response to your presence was out of proportion to anything visible that you had done or said. The relationships with people who had every visible reason to be secure in their position and responded to you with an urgency that did not match the security they should have felt. You were not doing anything wrong. You were not being too much. Though the management of what you carry in response to that feedback was the appropriate response to the conditions that were producing the feedback, you were not failing to read the room correctly. Though the room's signals were genuinely confusing because the signals were coming from a source you did not have visibility into, you were simply present, simply being what you are, and what you are was producing the fear that you were then, in the absence of any explanation for it, trying to make sense of through explanations that located the source in something about you that should be corrected. Nothing should have been corrected. The fear was their response to your reality, not your response to any failure in yourself. The residue you were left with from those interactions, the specific quality of having somehow been wrong without knowing how, was the management strategy of a person who is trying to find the correctable error in themselves to explain an experience that was not produced by any correctable error. The management was understandable. It was the reasonable response to feedback that seemed to be about you when it was actually about what you produce in certain people simply by being what you are. The important people are scared of you. This sentence, held clearly and without the qualification that the management orientation would add to it, changes the entire reading of those past encounters. Not because it removes the discomfort that those encounters produced. Not because it retroactively makes the experiences simple or uncostly. Because it locates the source of the discomfort correctly. In them. In what you carry. In the specific dynamic between absolute importance encountering the managed form of relative importance and the managed form responding with the fear that genuine things always produce in the things that simulate them. Subscribe now if this channel is the place where what you have always been has finally been named in the form that allows you to hold it without the protective management that has been reducing it to more comfortable dimensions. Stay inside what is named here. It matters. Here is what changes when you understand that the fear others carry in relation to you is the measure of your importance rather than evidence of something wrong with you. The entire orientation toward the encounters that produce that fear changes. From the orientation of someone who is trying to manage their presence to prevent the disruption from occurring, to calibrate what they bring into rooms to the size that produces the least possible uncomfortable reaction, to the orientation of someone who understands that the disruption is the evidence of the real thing being present and who therefore stops trying to prevent it. The management of your presence to prevent the fear was the management of your importance to prevent its visibility. Every time you reduced what you brought to a room because the full version was producing that specific quality of reactive response in the people in it, Every time you calibrated the expression to the size that the room seemed to find manageable, you were participating in the exact project that the rooms were organized around. The project of keeping absolute importance invisible, of maintaining the conditions under which relative importance can continue to present itself as the only real form. You were not consciously participating. The management felt like social intelligence, like the reading of a room's needs, like the appropriate calibration of expression to context. And in some ways it was all of those things. The reading of the room was real. The calibration was intelligent. But the underlying orientation, the orientation of someone who believed that the discomfort your presence produced was a problem to be solved by reducing the presence, was the orientation the rooms were designed to produce in people who carry what you carry. The rooms produce that orientation in people like you as the mechanism of their own protection. The protection is no longer operative in you. The knowing has changed the orientation. You understand now what the fear is about and where it comes from and what it means. And what it means changes everything about how the encounters will proceed from this point. You are not going to enter rooms and try to produce the fear, that would be performance. Which is the opposite of what your importance is. You are going to enter rooms as what you are. Completely. Without the management. And the fear that your presence produces in certain people will be understood by you for what it is. Evidence. The most direct evidence available that what you carry is real and present and producing its natural effect in the people who can feel it. Let the evidence accumulate. Let the fear tell you what it is telling you. Let the specific quality of response in certain rooms, the urgency to establish. The reactive reassertion of the familiar forms of importance. The energy that does not match the surface of the situation. Confirm what you now know about what you carry and what your presence does and what the accumulation of that presence in the world is going to produce. Here is what most people miss about importance when they think about it in relation to their own life. They think about it as a quality that arrives from the outside. Something conferred by recognition, built through achievement, established through the accumulation of evidence that other people treat you as significant. This understanding of importance is the understanding that the systems you have been moving through your entire life have been designed to produce in you. Because it is the understanding that keeps importance dependent on the systems that confer it. Keep importance dependent on external conferral and you keep the person who carries it dependent on the external sources of conferral, dependent on the system, manageable by the system, kept inside the territory the system defines as the range of permissible significance. You have been operating inside this understanding of your own importance for longer than it has served you. Not because you chose it consciously or because you are naive about how the systems work. Because the conditions of your life produced this understanding as the most available explanation for your experience. The experience of importance that was felt internally but not confirmed externally. That was present in you but not reflected back in the ways the system rewards genuine significance, naturally produced. In the absence of a better explanation. The understanding that what you felt internally was aspirational rather than actual. That you were important in your own experience of yourself without being important in the sense that mattered. The sense that mattered was always the internal one. That is the reversal that the understanding of absolute importance requires, and that changes everything about how you hold yourself in relation to your own life. The internal is not the aspirational version of what the external confirms. The internal is the real version that the external has been failing to reflect. The gap between what you sensed about your own importance and what the external world confirmed was not evidence that the internal sensing was inflated. It was evidence that the external world was operating on a system of recognition that was not built to recognize what you carry. The system was not built for you. It was built for the familiar kind of importance, the relative, conferred, accumulated kind. And you carry the kind it was not built for. The gap was the system's failure to see, not your imagination's excess. Hold this. Let it rewrite the account you have been carrying of the years in which the gap was widest and the cost of maintaining the internal knowing without external reflection was highest. Those years were not years of delusion. They were years of accuracy in the face of a system that was systematically inaccurate about what you were. What your importance means for the world beyond the rooms of the people who are afraid of it is something that needs to be held alongside the fear. The fear is the confirmation of the reality. The reality is what matters for the rest. The rest is the people who need what you carry and who are not afraid of it, who are reaching for it, who encounter you or encounter what you produce or encounter the quality of the world that your unmanaged presence shapes and feel. In the encounter, the specific relief of being in contact with something real. These people are not in the rooms of the royals. They are in the rooms of the ordinary, in the encounters of daily life, in the relationships that form without ceremony, in the specific moments when one genuine person's presence meets another person's genuine reaching in something that cannot be planned produces itself. The reaching is constant, all around you, in the lives of people who are navigating a world that runs substantially on the managed versions of things. There is a steady, quiet, largely unarticulated reaching for the genuine version, for the encounter with something that is not performing itself, for the presence that does not require the reader to account for the gap between what is being presented and what is actually there, for the relief of being met at the level where meeting actually changes something rather than the level where meeting is a performance of connection that leaves both parties exactly as they arrived. You are the genuine version. You have always been the genuine version. The years and the difficulty and the full arc of the plan were building the genuine version into the form it is in now, complete, refined, capable of full expression, no longer requiring the management that the earlier chapters made necessary, and the genuine version, in full expression, meeting the reaching of the people who have been reaching for it, produces the specific change in the world that your importance was built to produce. Not the fear of the royals. That is the confirmation of the reality, the change in the people who were reaching. That is the purpose of the importance. That is what the importance is for. The royals confirm it and the people who need it receive it, and both responses are the appropriate responses of a world encountering the real thing in a person who has arrived at full expression of it. You are important. The royals are scared. Both statements are true and neither one is more significant than the other. They are two sides of the same reality. The fear and the receiving, the confirmation and the purpose, the evidence and the expression. Together they describe what you are and what you are for and what the world gets from the fact of your existence in it at full expression. Write 222 in the comments if you can hold both simultaneously. The fear as confirmation and the purpose as the point. The royals' response as evidence and the reaching people as the destination. Write 222, because holding both without collapsing either one into a smaller version of itself is the full understanding, and the full understanding is what the full expression requires. The royals are scared of something specific that has not been named yet, and naming it precisely changes what the fear means for you and what you are supposed to do with the knowledge of it. They are scared of what happens to their world if importance like yours becomes visible. Not visible to them, they can already see it, in the specific way that people who have built their lives around the recognition of genuine authority can see genuine authority when it is in front of them, visible to the people who have not been able to see it, to the people who are currently operating inside the understanding that the system produces, the understanding that importance comes from what the system confers. That significance is built through the mechanisms the system rewards. That the range of possible significance is the range the system defines. To those people, currently inside that understanding, The visibility of your importance would be the demonstration that the understanding is wrong. That there is a form of significance that the system did not produce and cannot recognize and cannot confer and cannot take away. That the significance they have been organized around seeking from the system was always the lesser form. That demonstration, made visible to people who are currently organized around seeking the lesser form, changes what they seek, changes the direction of their reaching, changes the form of importance they are willing to accept as sufficient. And people who are no longer organized around seeking what the system offers in the form the system offers it are people who have moved outside the territory of the system's influence, who no longer need what the system withholds and grants as the mechanism of their management. The royals need people to remain inside the territory of the system's influence. Their position within the system is what produces their position in the world. If the system loses its hold on what people reach for, if the demonstration that importance is not what the system says, it becomes visible enough to change the orientation of enough people, the system loses the foundation of its relevance, loses the thing that makes the positions within it mean what they currently mean, loses the hold that makes the management of importance the form of power that it currently is. This is what your visibility threatens, not them as individuals, the system as the source of what people organize their lives around. And a threat to that is a threat to everything that their position within that system provides them. The fear is not personal, the fear is structural, but you are the person whose full expression of what you carry threatens the structure, which makes the fear yours to navigate and the full expression yours to choose. The encounter with what you carry changes people before they have language for what changed. This is worth understanding specifically because it clarifies how the importance operates in practice and what it looks like when it is doing what it is for. The royal's fear is an instantaneous response, it arrives without deliberation. Before any decision to respond is made, the change in the people who receive what you carry is also instantaneous in the same way. It happens below the threshold of the deciding mind, in the part of the person that responds to reality directly rather than to the representation of reality that the conscious mind usually operates on. What changes is their relationship to what is possible, specifically, their understanding of what is possible for them, not in the abstract, not in the general sense of the inspirational claim that anything is possible, the specific, immediate, directly felt understanding that the version of themselves that is most genuinely and essentially themselves is possible, that the interior thing they have been dimly aware of carrying, that they have rarely allowed to fully surface because the conditions for its surfacing have not felt safe, that they have been managing and reducing and keeping at a size the surrounding world can comfortably hold, that thing is possible, is real, is the thing that your presence just confirmed is real, by being the thing in front of them that their interior has always been trying to be. You give people permission by being what you are. Not permission you grant, permission that your presence represents, the permission of the living demonstration that what they carry is real and expressible and does not need to be managed into invisibility to survive in the world, that someone is moving through the world carrying the genuine thing at full expression, that the world does not require the management of the genuine thing as the price of moving through it, that the management was always optional. This permission, given to a person in the specific moment when they are ready to receive it, produces changes that neither of you will be able to trace or measure or account for. Changes in how they move through the next encounter. Changes in what they allow to be present in the next relationship. Changes in the choices they make at the next decision point about whether to reduce themselves to the size the room seems to require or to occupy the full dimensions of what they actually are. These changes compound. The permission propagates. The importance of what you carry moves through the world not through any mechanism you can control or direct but through the simple, cumulative, Completely unstoppable fact of the genuine thing encountering the genuine. Reaching and the encounter changing what the person carries into their next moment. This is what you are important for. This is why the royals are scared. The fear and the purpose are the same reality from opposite sides. The fear from the people who need the management to continue. The purpose in the people who need the management to end. The next video on your screen carries the account of what this looks like in the specific encounters you are going to have, how to recognize the reaching when it arrives, how to be present to it completely, how to let the importance do what it does without the management stepping in to reduce it before it can land fully in the person who needs it. Click now. The importance is active. The purpose is in motion. One final thing needs to be held before the full weight of what is being said here can be received. The importance that is being named is not importance that requires you to do anything different from what you are already doing in the moments when you are most completely yourself. It does not require a performance of significance. Does not require the adoption of any posture or stance or way of moving through the world that is different from simply being what you are at full expression. The importance is already there, already active, already producing its effects in every encounter where you are genuinely present rather than managed. It has been producing effects your entire life. The only thing that changes with the understanding is the orientation you bring to those encounters. The understanding that what you are doing when you are most completely yourself is the most important thing you could be doing. That the full expression is not the aspiration. It is the arrival. It is what the importance is. In motion. In the world. Doing what it is for. Be what you are. In the next room. In the next conversation. Without the management. Without the calibration to the comfort level of the people who are afraid of it. The royals can be afraid. You can be present. Both things can be true in the same room at the same time. The fear is theirs to carry. The presence is yours to give.